This is Brilliant's multivariable calculus course, limits with many variables, and they tell you a little story about a boat. And they're perturbed by having their peaceful moment ruined. And this speedboat comes past, and it makes a kind of shock. They could have added ducks, but they didn't. So this is about discontinuities. And something called one-dimensional continuity. And there's a bit about wave equations. And that's okay. There's a little interactive thing here. You can change the amplitude, you can change the velocity, positive or negative, and you can run it. And when you run it, time goes forwards and backwards. I'm not quite sure why they did that, but there they did it. Because at the moment the velocity is positive, but if the velocity is negative, then when time's going forwards, the wave is going backwards, and when time's going backwards, the wave is going forwards, and vice versa. I think it might have been better if they just did that, but I don't know. So they went to all that effort to tell a little story and somehow illustrate it. Presumably that little story was supposed to give you some kind of intuition or some kind of real world connection that you can imagine. But then I get to this bit. Slices and I just can't make any sense of this part. The one-dimensional part of a two-dimensional graph cut out by a plane in polar coordinates. A slice is given by a set of apparently this is one single. They haven't used any kind of comprehension notation. So this is a set of. They use round brackets with commas as points. So it's a set of points in three-dimensional space. A and B are constant. They're like an origin. and r and theta are parameters that vary over some range. Presumably theta is 0 to 2 pi and r is 0 to infinity. I don't know. Apparently not. R is 0 to 6 or something here. But you're not given the actual rule for f. So my point is just that really telling a story about some people in sailing boats in the bay isn't much of a help when you get to stuff like this. I'd much rather that you told me a story about r and theta here and you used some kind of slightly more comprehensible set notation and cleared up this notion of the one-dimensional part of a two-dimensional graph. That's what you should be concentrating on, not stories about sailing in the bay. But I can appreciate that on the salaries that you guys are on, probably it's more interesting to talk about sailing boats in the bay.